Ooh, I've been reading a book that neither of you would want to read.
You're probably right. Most of the time, I don't want to read anything.
That's fair.
But I can read subtitles pretty quick, actually.
Oh,
so.
how do I sound? Oh, I sound all right.
Yeah, you sound good.
I was just winging it.
Of course
I've
you
been
were.
reading a book on modern monetary theory. That's the look I expected.
Yeah, did you see Kevin instantaneously just go into,
I was waiting for the crickets to start chirping, actually. I wanted to give them some time.
no, I'm not, I don't have the button.
I know.
He would have done it.
I know he would have.
No, actually, I probably would have gone with
No, that wouldn't have been appropriate.
Now the crickets would have actually worked. Okay, what's that book about?
exactly what it sounds like.
I know.
There's a theory in the world that the relationship between what a government can spend and the amount of taxes that it takes in is not necessarily in a direct relationship. And this is about that.
Trying to figure out how to make that make sense. There's a words.
What's
I'm about to say you broke Kevin because
what
his
is-
brain just was like,
What is your problem with what I just said?
Like I get that
the big words you used in there that were more than 2 syllables.
All right, from the peanut gallery, is that enough?
Yeah.
No, so I get that the government does spend money, and quite a bit of it, more than what we've been taxed so far.
Yes,
mind you.
it's called deficit spending.
Yeah, we're basically working in the red zone.
And this book says that's not a problem
Why is that?
because the government can print money. So theoretically never run out.
I mean, theoretically, they print money. It drops the value down every time they print out more, right?
False.
No?
Spending of money drops the value down, not printing of money.
Yeah,
And it doesn't actually drop the value down of the money. We haven't seen deflation, I don't know, maybe in the 70s. What it does is force businesses, not force, but it lets businesses take advantage of more money being spent. And businesses increase the value of the goods they're selling. But the dollar isn't necessarily losing value. That's not what an inflation number is. An inflation number is the increase of the cost of goods.
So it's costing more of your dollars to attain the goods then.
Yes.
Got it.
And what this book says is, through a number of ways, mostly not through controlling the budget, you can control inflation while still deficit spending, albeit somewhat wisely. Its biggest argument is that we're deficit spending on the wrong things, which is fair.
I can believe that.
So, in its most simple form, if you're going to deficit spend, you need to do mostly what you're going to spend on is either mechanisms that increase the wages people will make in the future, or the infrastructure necessary for good production to be more competitive in the future. Both of them are protections against future inflation.
And we're not doing that.
We're doing that some. We're not doing that a huge amount.
Okay.
And then anytime the government, you'd also use it in emergency situations like COVID. But it would argue probably that, like, say, the third COVID check was probably excessive
Right. Okay.
because it wasn't necessary to maintain the stability of the economy. At that point, all it did was increase inflation. The problem is you don't know that you've sent out too much money until you've seen a tick up in inflation,
Right.
which is going to be there's going to be a lag there. Not a huge one, but we probably still overspent. But it argues like the whole fight over the budget and the deficit and what we're spending money on is ridiculous. Like it's impossible for the federal government. Every other government in this country can run out of money because the only one that has the power of the purse is the federal government. So we shouldn't be worried about the money that we're creating. We should be worried about how we're spending it. We need to be spending it in ways that protect against future inflation. Well, more important, like more specifically, they protect the relationship, the stability of the relationship between the cost of goods and the wages being earned.
Okay, so when the cost of goods go up,
So you
people
want,
should make more then, right?
yeah,
Or-
you want that relationship to be relatively stable.
Got it. So you don't want to see too much movement or deviation off of that.
Yeah.
Got it. Casey? I don't know. You were just staring at me.
Just listening.
Figured you
I
had
feel like
some-
that was a pretty solid explanation.
That
It
was.
was.
I understood it.
Yeah, the only
Anyway.
way it's bad is if we print money to pay off our debt, right? Isn't that what?
Well, paying off our debt doesn't accomplish anything.
But
We
yeah,
can pay off. We can pay off our debt with a keystroke.
But isn't that what
Paid.
technically would deflate the dollar value, right? Isn't that?
No,
what
what
they say?
deflates? Okay, so you have to think of spending. So what we're doing is investing on credit, right? The credit is mostly about future production. Like we're spending not against dollars that we're going to have in the future. We're spending against the production of goods that we accomplish in the future and the value of those goods, right?
Okay.
So we're investing on credit. And then, sorry, hold on, backtrack. What was your thought? Because I lost the second part of that.
So if you print money to pay off our debt, that's what deflates money.
Oh, I don't know if that's accurate,
No.
but I don't like. But it's not a good investment.
Right. I just remember in civics and econ, that's what we talked about. We are like, why don't we just print money to pay off all the debts that we
Oh, I know.
owe?
So, but you have to look at the dollar less as a dollar and more like a stock. What deflates the currency or causes inflation isn't necessarily the spending of money. It's the perception of the value of the dollar and what people think they can spend money on and how much of it they think they can spend. So there's this like tenuous relationship, but it's mostly a sociological relationship between our currency and the people of the country. And what you need to have is some sort of a tether that connects those things together, which is why we tax people and companies, right? It creates this tether. If you lose that tether, then you have runaway inflation, you've got deflation, like your economy falls apart. That's where stability comes in. Like it's like convincing people they bought the right car after they bought the car.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of what you're doing with these policies and taxes and spending is convincing people they did the right thing 6 months ago.
Interesting. And it's okay though.
It can be.
that's
It can
very
also
good.
be really bad.
Oh,
But deficit spending is a thing.
yeah.
We're not getting away from it.
No.
So we should probably engineer the things that we spend the deficit dollars on a little bit better. Now, then this book delves into like the DEI and the wage gap thing. And I don't know, like if the wage gap is too big and too much of the new wealth is going into the wealthiest 1% or whatever, that's a problem. But even in a regulated relationship with the top 1%, they are going to get richer.
No matter what.
Yeah. The idea being that you want to narrow the growth gap between real wages of the bottom 60% and the wages of the top 1%. So it doesn't look like it's out of hand. But they're going to get richer. That's just a thing.
Okay.
And then they go into the DEI stuff, and I just don't, like, that argument isn't compelling to me.
That's fair.
I think the argument that deficit spending isn't a problem the way that we think it is very compelling. But when they start talking about these things, like all these people can have all this money, forget, the DEI stuff. Like just talk about the bottom 40%. Well, if they raise the wages of the bottom 40% to a level that they're talking about, that is inflationary. So unless you are raising those wages and increasing the competitiveness of goods and the competitiveness of the market, then you are going to suffer inflation.
Isn't that what California was doing when they raised the wages all the way up to 20?
California's has worked out pretty well. I mean, if you're just raising wages to the point where people can buy the necessities of life, I don't know that that's necessarily inflationary because everyone's buying the necessities of life and it doesn't represent a massive increase. It's when the price of everything goes up and then the people who are selling the necessities of life think they can increase the profitability of their company because, an iPhone just went from $700 to $1,800. So we should double the price of eggs because we can be more profitable.
Eggs have gone up quite a bit.
No, they have. This is a real argument. But do you
yeah.
understand
Yeah.
what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like eggs are pretty
But what
expensive.
you're preserving is the relationship of their perspective of money, not the value of money itself. Anyway,
Interesting.
so that's what I'm reading.
That's heavy.
It's interesting. I like it.
It's heavy.
Yeah, I feel like you'd understand it way better than me.
I mean, I don't know. Listen, it's written by a couple of people that have PhDs in economics. They definitely understand the global economy better than I do.
This is fair.
What are you staring at?
My arm go all the way down. It looks like it's that piece that was under it.
Oh, it's definitely falling.
Yeah. It was.
Why do
it
you
was-
keep breaking that shit?
It was doing just fine. It's that sticky pad that I had to replace under it that Casey gave me.
It's just the sad.
So I think the stickiness is coming out.
Casey's giving you defective parts. That's what's happening.
That's exactly what's happening.
Hey, they were cheap parts. They're not defective. Okay,
Casey, what's going on in your world?
nothing.
Nothing?
Not a whole lot.
What are you smoking? Let's wait. Let's do that while he's doing, and then he can tell us later.
I am smoking suckers with logic. That's what I'm.
I don't know that that's ever happened. Smoking suckers with fallacy, maybe
Maybe whatever. Logic, fallacy.
lies and deceit
Don't hate the player. Hate the game.
seem more the tools of your trade. I don't know about logic.
I mean, just because I have the reputation of like a Vegas type person, that's hurtful.
I believe the term for that is hustler.
I'm like a cheap bookie to you. Is that what it is?